We've been calling on President Biden to push for reform to the filibuster since he was inaugurated, and it has been a very slow path, and we are not quite there yet. But recently, he did have this to say about it.
So you're not likely to get Republican votes for the tax increase. You're not likely to get Republican votes for H.R. 1, expanding voting rights, or the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. So aren't you going to have to choose? I know you've been reluctant to do away with the filibuster. Aren't you going to have to choose between preserving the filibuster and advancing your agenda?
Yes, but here's the choice. I don't think you have to eliminate the filibuster. You have to do it what it used to be when I first got to the Senate and back in the old days when you used to be around there. And that is that a filibuster, you had to stand up and command the floor. And you had to keep talking alone. You couldn't call for, no one could say, quorum call. Once you stopped talking, you lost that, and someone could move in and say, I moved the question of. So you got to work for the filibuster.
So you're for that reform. You're for bringing back the talking filibuster.
I am. That's what it was supposed to be. Look, I think, don't hold me to the numbers, George, but I think between 1960 and 2000, there were like, I'm making this number up, I don't know. There were like, 50 filibusters. Now they're like 200 since then. Since that
just put a hold
changed
on it, that's it.
Yeah, I mean, so the idea, it almost is getting to the point where there's, democracy's having a hard time functioning.
Okay, JR, so he's not ready for it to be entirely eliminated, but he does say, sort of like Joe Manchin had been saying last week, that maybe making them actually filibuster would be a good thing for the filibuster. So that's progress, I guess.
Yeah. The fact that has to be even brought up as a thing to reform. Let's reform the filibuster back to being a filibuster rather than just a, hey, I don't want to do anything, or hey, I don't like that, so let me stop it. Because that's all it is. We got to put things in terms that folks just can hear and glom onto. Not dumb it down, not trying to say things like that, but just put it in normal terms that people see what's happening. Like, oh, they have to go through the procedural vote and then out of committee, and don't say any of that stuff. Republicans are utilizing a filibuster, and if you know what a filibuster is, you have to talk. They're not talking. They're just raising their hand and saying, I don't wanna. It's like kindergarten, and the kid doesn't want to take a nap when that's the rule right now. I don't wanna, and now everyone else has to stay up. My kid hated naps when he was in preschool, but he didn't run around and say, I don't wanna, and then roll around and make sure no one else does it. But that's how the filibuster works right now.
Yeah.
I don't wanna. So therefore, entire legislative process and agendas just get derailed because you just don't wanna. And the reason you don't wanna is because someone's paying you not to wanna. People have absolutely nothing to do with the actual process of American politics, man.
Yeah, I used to hate naps too. That used to be the stupidest thing about me because they're the absolute best. Although, man, I cannot wake up from a nap. I am unusable like hours. But anyway, okay, so that's good. Making them actually filibuster. You can have the filibuster, but you have to keep 40 people there. And if you ever can't make quorum, then that's it. So if you want to make a big spectacle of it, if you believe that this piece of legislation is terrible and the American people need to know about it, we got to get the media to cover it. So we're gonna get 40 people to stand there and read, the Cat in the Hat or whatever, then you can do that as long as you can do that. And then otherwise, we're gonna actually pass legislation. That seems like a good idea. A reasonable response to the facts from Joe Biden that, like with Trump, is gonna be undercut pretty quickly because he then went on to say this.
I'm not saying this is going to be easy, George, but I do believe there's enough Republicans over time who are going to have, look,
they haven't had that epiphany you said you were going to see in the campaign.
No, well, I've only been here 6 weeks, pal. Okay, give me a break. Been here 6 weeks. I think the epiphany is going to come between now and 2022. This is there's 78% of the people say they support this program. 52% of Republicans. Let's assume it's off by 15%. You're going to go home and campaign. Republican voters want that $1,500 because they're in trouble. Republican voters want to be able to choose between being able to go to work and send their kid to a daycare that they can afford. Republican voters want to be able to take care of a child care tax credit. I mean, it's not like every Republican voter is a billionaire. And by the way, I'm not saying I'll do it again, but I won those Republican voters in suburbia.
So, JR, they haven't had their epiphany, but it could still come. It could be in the next 2 years because, as we all know, the thing that gets Republicans to work with Democrats is a looming election. That's definitely what's going to lead to it, Joe. Oh God.
This is inadvertently. I'm not sure if it's purposeful or not, but it's providing cover for Republican politicians versus Republican voters, and on a large scale, whatever. So, or just Republicans in the country, because maybe not necessarily all of them are the voters on it. To say Republican voters want this, Republican voters want that, Republican voters want the third thing. It's fine to say that on those things that they want. Then the problem is you're allowing that to be connected to Republican politicians. Republican voters want these things. Republican politicians don't. It's a perfect opportunity. Be like, look at all these Republican voters that are happy with the stimulus bill and now law and the money that could be coming to help them in some whatever way that is needed, right? In multiple different ways. You know who doesn't want that? Republican senators, Republican congressmen, the people that are supposed to represent Republican voters who voted for them. They did their part. Republican politicians are not doing their part in return.
Yeah.
Just point it out. There's a difference. Republican voters want certain things and Republican politicians don't. They don't represent them. Stop voting for them. If you want what you asked for and you keep not getting it, stop voting for the people who won't give it to you. It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, they want certain things, maybe. They don't want nearly as many of the things that would actually benefit them as you might assume, because that would require rationality, which is in short supply in America. They do want some things. That does not mean that they act politically based on that. They still support Republicans. If they're still Republican voters, that's the problem. And are Republican voters better than Republican politicians? Probably, but for how much longer? I mean, by the time 2022 rolls around, there's gonna be like 50 million Americans that think that Joe Biden wears long johns made out of baby skin. The voters are getting real bad really fast. So, Joe, bear that in mind. The epiphany probably isn't gonna come. And if it does, the Q epiphany probably has already come too.
Okay, how will the epiphany come? That's the next question. Hey, President Biden, when is the epiphany going to come? What's going to trigger it? Because right now it hasn't happened yet. We thought it was going to be Donald Trump being ridiculous and being a clown for 4 years. Hasn't, in fact, it's increased it. What's going to change?
They didn't vote for the COVID bill. Wildly popular. Now, does it make sense that they should turn and vote for a raise to the minimum wage because that's what their voters actually want and it would benefit them? Sure, but they're not gonna do it. They didn't do it for the COVID bill. They're not gonna do it for these other things. What, to increase voting? Yeah, that is really popular. I should probably buck Donald Trump and support that. That's not how anything works.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.